Okay, this is going to be our second tutorial here in Aperture. And now what I want to show you are the adjustments and what we can do with all the photos. I'm going to assume that you already have the gallery that you want to edit in Aperture here, your project that is. And for me, I'm going to use my Michigan, Ohio State photos here. So I've got a lot in here. And you'll notice here in the metadata that these are straight from my camera, and they've got all the different statistics and numbers here. And what we're really going to be going over, though, are the adjustments and what this entire panel will do over here for you. So we'll start. I'll just click on this photo, and we're going to look over here on the panel, though. I'm not 100% sure if you're going to be shooting large JPEGs or RAW, but if you do shoot RAW photos, you will have a little separate menu right here with a little caret that you can click up and down. A lot of these adjustments you may not ever need to use if you're using JPEG, or you won't even be able to use if it's JPEG. But even if it's RAW, you really may not want to worry about these just yet. I think we're trying to keep this simple in the beginning, and so maybe what we want to do is, even if you're shooting RAW, let's just not even worry about this. And if it's JPEG, you'll never even see this part anyways, okay? So if you look ahead here on top, this is this little graph that's supposed to show you your white and black points in the photo. Again, this is probably a little complex, but basically what it's showing is these are all the white values on the right-hand side, all the black values are on the left, and all the midtones, or any of the normal colors and anything in the middle between black and white are all in the middle. So that's just giving you a little graph, and we can go over on how to adjust that a little bit later. I just want to start from the top and go down and kind of show you all these things. Let's go to the white balance, and the white balance is something that will definitely be useful. Your camera tries to set it normally on its own and is usually very accurate, so you don't always have to switch the white balance. I'm looking for a photo right now that maybe my white balance would be a little bit off, but really, as you know, per usual, my camera's done a pretty good job at giving me an accurate white balance. Instead of showing you a photo that's screwed up, then I'll just kind of show you what it can look like. We'll look at this photo of Dennis here. And so if you look at this dial, you've got blue on one end and yellow on the other. And it says temp. And the white balance is literally the temperature of color, the temperature of light that we're using in this photo. So light is a spectrum, and if you looked at a graph and we really got scientific on this, you know, we're talking about the different temperatures of light. And when it is night or morning or the middle of the day, or it's indoors with one type of light bulb or indoors with a different type of light bulb, all of these things are going to give off slightly different temperatures of light. The camera's usually good at reading this and will adjust to those temperatures of light, but sometimes the camera will not know what temperature of light it is, and this is our chance to go back and readjust that. So if and notice here that it is in Kelvin, so I've got 4,533 Kelvin on this. If I take that even higher, notice it gets even more yellow. And if I go extreme, it's going to get really yellow here. So from one here, it looks kind of like a colder day, right? It almost looks like a cold, crisp fall day. And if you go a little bit warmer and keep on moving it, it really starts to pop out like it's a little bit more sunny outside. And usually, I just like to go with whatever the accurate color temperature is. And in this case, maybe I would want to warm it up just a little bit if I like that. But sometimes you're going to get some really yellow photos or some really red photos, and it's good to use this to go bring it back down towards a blue. And you see the other end of the spectrum here is this very, very blue one. So this photo isn't an example of a photo of a white balance that is too far off, but it does show that you could either go for maybe a cooler color right here, where I think this looks kind of like a fall day, and you could, on the other hand, warm that up and make it look more like a summer day. So that can come into play, and you'll slowly over time learn more or be better able to figure out when the white balance is something that you should adjust. Just below that, we have tint, and tint is not something you're going to use that often, and really to save time and space in your memory, let's just skip tint altogether. It's really not going to be that big of a deal. Because if we go down here, this is where the stuff that we will use very often comes into play. Exposure is probably the one that you use most often, and this really just helps you adjust your exposure from what you took with the camera. And if you look on here, it'll on Aperture, it'll let you go up 2 full stops or down 2 full stops, and you can see that's much darker on one end and much brighter on the other. Since this photo was pretty well exposed in the beginning, let's go to a photo that was not, and maybe we can do some adjustments. So this one's a pretty good example. I think it's just underexposed. It's a little too dark. So I'm going to take my adjustment here and just bring it up a little bit. And let's see how that adjusts. Okay. And so right around there, I like it. I just think it's a little bit brighter than it was. And you can see everyone better. You can see both the Carols here. And that's going to help. And we can even look, if I press view and I go to my view here, let's see if we can find a photo that is completely off on its exposure. This random one of Dennis is a pretty good example here. So this one is definitely too dark. And if this was a photo that we really liked, which this doesn't really happen to be, we could definitely go back here to our exposure and just bring that back and brighten this up. And voila, there we go. It actually looks like we hit the exposure on the nose on the first shot here. So this program is saving our butts here because we're not always as accurate as we'd like with our camera, and this is giving us the opportunity to kind of save those photos. Let's just skip recovery completely. You don't need to know recovery. And for that part, let's just skip black point and let's skip brightness too. These are ones that I don't think that you should use all that much, especially now, and let's just skip that altogether. Moving on down, let's see here. Let's see if we can get a good photo that we'd like to use. V to view, and let's go ahead and go to. We've got this picture. We'll start here. So contrast is going to make a greater contrast between all of the edges and the colors on these photos. So maybe we'll use our loop here to see if we can't see this effect happening. Even go up to 200%. Now we can really see it. And now if we push our contrast there, you can see those darks getting a little bit darker, and it's really giving it more of an edge. So sometimes I like to use this contrast just to help with the edges and make some of the colors pop a little bit and just make sure there's a difference between the colors. So this is something that is good to use, but use sparingly. I wouldn't use it on all your photos, but every once in a while when you just wish kind of the edges were showing a little bit better, this is a good way to do that. I'm going to put this actually back down to 0 for now. Definition, let's skip. Saturation is, quite frankly, just the entire saturation. You can go completely to 0 and turn this photo to black and white, and you can go beyond 1 and it will start to get even brighter. I'm going to take my loop off here by pressing tilde. I do not recommend putting your saturation over 1. The camera you have takes great photos, and 99% of the time the saturation is going to be just fine and the colors will be great. And the second you start pushing it over 1, it's going to look a little bit cheesy, or people will be able to notice that it's just a little too bright and that those colors are unnatural. So if you want to go to a black and white photo, you can do that, and you can lower the saturation. Even if you just want it just slightly desaturated, just kind of pulling the colors out and you're going for a stylized look, then you can do that. But my recommendation would be to never really go over 1. Vibrancy, we're going to skip as well.